I believe that the reason your life feels boring in your 30s and 40s and beyond is because you are boring. Now, I realize that that's probably not the best way to start a video by insulting you, but in the next 7 minutes, I want to explain first of all why we become boring in our 30s and 40s and some ways that we can beat boredom and live a more interesting, exciting life. I should also probably mention that it's about 100 degrees here today, so if I look kind of glossy or shiny, it's because I'm actually covered in sweat. So about 10 years ago in my life, I had an interesting experience. At that time, I was 35 years old. I'd recently got divorced, started my own business a couple of years before that, and I was traveling around the world trying to experience more of life. Now that all sounds really cool, but the truth is underneath the surface, my life was a horrible, chaotic mess, even though I was kind of holding it together on the surface and acting like I knew what I was doing. One weekend, I went to a barbecue with a bunch of friends. Now, all of them were married, they had steady careers, some of them had children, they all had mortgages. They were living a life that seemed fairly normal and steady and by conventional terms very successful. But the interesting thing was most of them were bored out of their brains. They were just saying, yeah, things are good, I guess it's okay, and there was nothing really exciting or interesting happening for them. Now in contrast, in my life, even though things were a horrible mess, I was actually interested and excited and I wasn't bored. And that was a really interesting discovery for me, the contrast between my friends who had success and all these things that they should have in their 30s and me where my life was a total chaotic mess, but I wasn't bored and they were. All right, so why does life get more boring in your 30s and 40s compared to in your 20s? Well, I'm going to share a theory with you that I learned from the book 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. Now don't worry, I'm not a huge Jordan Peterson fan. I'm not going to start to tell you to bloody dress like a lobster and stand up straight and clean your room. No, I'm not going to talk about that. I am going to share with you an idea that I think is valuable though. In life, he says that there are two kind of extremes. There is chaos and there is order. Bloody order, okay? And so we have these two different parts of our lives that are kind of challenging each other or we're oscillating between. Now, when you're in your early 20s, your life tends to be more chaotic, right? You're more adventurous, you're living your life, you're doing crazy things, you're spending all your money on dumb crap. You're expected to be more chaotic because you're finding yourself. But as you move into your 30s and your 40s and beyond, you start to move towards order. You start to try to make things more kind of balanced. You find a steady job, you find a good relationship, maybe you buy a home. And so life changes a lot in your 30s because you move towards order. What I have noticed is that typically the more order you have in your life, the more you become passive. Whereas the more chaos you have in your life, typically you are more active. Now, a good example of this is say that you go on holidays, okay? You tend to be very active. You tend to live your life actively. You're seeing things, you're out there doing things, you're experimenting, you're trying new foods. You're very active in the world versus when you're at home, you're very passive. You're doing the same things. You're kind of in your comfort zone. You're not really experimenting or challenging yourself a lot. And this tends to lead to us becoming boring. This tendency to be passive makes us boring a lot of the time. Whereas when we're more active, we tend to be interesting. This is why I think people love traveling overseas because it brings a little bit of chaos into their life. You don't know the location, you don't know where you're going, you don't know the language, you don't know how to spend money or what to do, what the local customs are. So you live in a little bit of chaos in this active way and life is interesting. But in our 30s, we tend to lean towards order and balance and kind of systems and consistency and comfort zones. So therefore, I believe the reason that you become boring is because you become passive. All right, so the more passive you are in life, the more boring you become. Hello, Captain Obvious. That's not rocket science to figure out. What do I mean by passive? I mean that you're not as active as you used to be in life. You're not taking as many actions. You're not being proactive. You're not being generative. You're not being a creator in life. Now, this is really easy to do these days because of media, because of online entertainment, because of the way the world has become. It's very, very easy for us to become passive. So with this in mind, I want to give you 3 ways that I have learned to beat boredom in my life that have really helped me to feel better about myself, live a more interesting life, and feel more alive and engaged with everything that I'm doing. Number 1 is to learn something difficult and new. Now, the reason I'm sitting here playing a record like a hipster is because I'm trying to demonstrate this is something new that I've been getting into, which is vaporwave. Ta-da! I've been actually learning a lot about the genre of vaporwave the last 6 months because I'm a nerd and I love music, and I found it online and I was like, this is really cool. I have no idea what this is. So I've actually started to explore the world. I've started to learn some of the artists. I've started to get really engaged in the subculture of it. What has that done? It has stopped me feeling bored in my life. And I'm sure for you, there's something in your life that you could learn more about, maybe something that fascinates you or you're curious about that you could actually do a deep dive into and learn more about. When you do this, you will find that it puts you back into the active phase in your life, and it actually makes you feel more interested and engaged in what you're doing. Number 2 is to spend more time with new people. Now, very often as we get into our 30s and 40s and beyond, we start to hang around the same people all the time, or people who are very similar to us in terms of age and lifestyle and beliefs. One of the most valuable things I've done over the last 10 years is to make friends with people who are in different age brackets to me. Whether they're younger than me, whether they're a lot older than me, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we have commonality in our lives, and the beautiful thing about being in your middle years in life is that age doesn't really matter. Now, if you like, you can actually combine tip number 1 with the idea of meeting new people as well. There's groups of people, there's people who have certain interests, and you can join in with those people and become engaged with them simply by having a new interest and actually finding those people out in the world. Groups like Meetup and all the different things online give you thousands of options to do new things, to learn new things, and to meet people who might be in a different stage of life, who might have different beliefs and backgrounds than you, but it will give you an incredible new sense of interest and engagement with life that you're probably missing right now by just hanging around the same people all the time. And the third suggestion I have for you is to act with purpose. Now, very often in life we get kind of stuck because we don't know what our grand life purpose is, what the meaning of our life is. Well, I believe by simply acting in a way that is more purposeful, i.e. doing things that actually help other people, that contribute to a greater cause, or doing something that goes beyond yourself, when you just simply act, you will find that it gives you the sense of purpose and meaning that you want. It might be something online, it might be something to do with a charity or a cause or something in your family. When you act with purpose, you will find that it actually changes the way you feel about yourself, and it puts you back in that active part of your life which you're probably craving in your 30s and 40s and beyond. Years and years ago, I read an amazing book by Earl Nightingale where he said that life is interesting only to interesting people. And that's a really key thing to think about. Are you actually an interesting person, and are you interested in life? So if you want to be less bored and more interested and engaged in your life, I would suggest thinking of yourself as an interesting person and starting to act accordingly. My friends, life is a grand adventure, I believe, as long as you see it that way. So I would encourage you, even though you might be in your 30s and 40s, just the same as me, to get out there, to explore the world, find new ways to meet new people, and to become a person who acts on purpose, because there is so much value in the life that you live today if you choose to make it one of meaning. My name is Daniel Midson-Short. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of our awesome community here. And most importantly, thank you for improving yourself.
Hey, you! Bloody well subscribe, okay?